or the legislature were to take the responsibility, could you conduct an audit in which you could come to a reasonable degree of certainty on how many illegal aliens voted?
It's good you asked that question. The federal government actually makes available a database of people, not necessarily who are citizens, but the opposite, people who are illegal aliens or green card holders, et cetera, and I actually have the document that a state would use to request that, to have that check done. And it's my intent, subsequent to this, because we've got other things flying around, but to pressure every state in the country to make this request of the federal government. And that request has to come from the Secretary of State's office. Now, what I don't know is, has the Secretary of State of this state ever made that request to bounce their voter list up against that to see who maybe is not qualified to cast a ballot? But that's an excellent question. That's what I think they should do.
Want to make a bet?
I'm not a gambling man.
Betting outside of the casinos is illegal, sir.
Let's go across to Nevada, and we can do that. But seriously, with the number of illegal aliens in Arizona, in the millions, it's almost beyond doubt that some voted. And the margin is so small, 10 million. Now, wouldn't you be duty-bound to conduct that study before you certified a winner in this election?
I would agree, and it's so many things we can talk about that we shouldn't be happening at this hour. This is the kind of thing that the state should have done before Election Day, before a single ballot was cast. So remove the risk of contamination, and what's just as dangerous, I think, is the suspicion of contamination.
Right. Well, there's one study that was done that said 236,000 illegal aliens voted. I have no idea what their methodology was or how they produced it, but if you had time to do it, could that be done with a degree of certainty with regard to the number, even if it were an estimate?
Well, to figure out the precise number is difficult, but to hold your voter list against what this federal government will provide and match, you'd be able to subtract a substantial number of the illegal immigrants, or not just illegal immigrants casting ballots, but I think probably as prominent, which may increase your numbers, are people who are green card holders.
Yeah, non-citizens.
Other visas where they are here legally, but...
it's a bigger universe, non-citizens.
It's non-citizens who are permitted to vote. Yeah, it's a much bigger universe, and I could certainly do that analysis, but I could not do it without the signature of the Secretary of State on that letter to the federal government requesting access to that database, because as you know, as many of these people know, it's very hard to figure out who actually is a citizen and who is not, or who's entitled to vote and who is not.
And how about the number of felons who voted that were not entitled to vote? That's been estimated at over 200,000 also. Would an audit of the voting list be able to assist in determining an approximate number?
The mechanics, the technical mechanics of an audit are easy. Getting the data of all the felons who would be ineligible, and not just complete data, not just that data, but you need to have full names of dates of birth at least, and then have the reciprocal data from the state, which they should have, and if they don't, that's a huge problem, because we've encountered many cases where the state on their voter list, they've got like a blank, or they'll mark somebody as the default, like born on January 1st, the year 1900 or something. So to be able to conduct that analysis is easy, but to get the resources of the data behind it to conduct it may be challenging, but the state has a better capability of doing it than anyone else, and if you want to retain me to do that, I'd be happy to send you an invoice.
And how about people from out of the state voting?
That's an analysis we did run, but again, our numbers on extremely low side, because we needed to have a high degree of confidence. The state itself could probably do a much better job of doing that analysis, and other states would be able to find more people who we couldn't discover having moved to other states based on real estate records, claiming the homestead tax exemption, which I think also established residency in another state, and just being able to do a much more vigorous match on voter lists, because again, we only got what the state gave us. We don't have what the state itself has.
There was a poll that was published that said that non-citizens broke 80-20 for Biden. How would someone do a poll like that?
You know, I would have
At least
to see
they
what
made
the
an
sample
attempt.
size is.
At least they made an attempt to find out who are the non-citizens. It seems like the governor and the Secretary of State just don't want the facts.
I've actually worked for many pollsters. I actually used to work for Frank Luntz, and I think figuring out how to do a poll of non-citizens in an election they shouldn't be able to vote in that's got a very high degree of difficulty. But Biden's doing really well with that group. I don't know why.
But that sounds like a pretty sensible breakdown.
Yeah.
So, just to sum up, in addition to all the hundreds of thousands of ballots where Republicans were not allowed to observe while the Democrats dealt with them secretly, there are also the clear fact that non-citizens voted. The question is how many. There's the clear fact that felons not entitled to vote voted. We just don't know how many. And that people from outside of Arizona voted. We just don't know how many. And in each case, the governor and the Secretary of State put their names on a certification that the results were true and accurate, and never bothered to make a single effort to find out about these obvious areas that would change the numbers.
In a municipal election this same year, I was working for the candidate, and one of my responsibilities was as poll watcher. And when it came time to open up the absentee ballots, I was sitting in the room, and I made sure I could hear and see everything. And in one case, a name came up, and I had my list, and I raised my hand. I said, I object. That person doesn't live here. Doesn't live in this city, shouldn't be able to vote here. They took his ballot out. They examined it. We had a conversation about whether he should or not, and they actually that vote was invalidated. It was spoiled.
You must have been in a state that follows the law.
I was, in fact, but if you do not have the ability to do that, it undermines the credibility of any election result.
The person who colluded with Russia was Hillary Clinton, and the person who got money from Russia was Joe Biden. Now we're facing not a false charge of collusion. We're facing multiple charges in multiple states of a unheard of in our history invasion of our sacred right to vote.
Many more get praise from the American public. We got 74 million votes, 11 million more votes than we had in 2016. We were looking to get about 68 million votes, and we said that would easily win. Well, we got 74 million votes, and getting above that number even could hit 75. But we got 74 million, and we didn't win. But I know that we won Arizona, and we won Michigan, and we won Georgia, and we won Pennsylvania, and we won Wisconsin. But what they did is they played games, and games like nobody's ever seen before. This is the first time Republicans or first time anyone has fought back. The 2020 election was rigged. It was a scam, and the whole world is watching, and they're laughing at our country. They're laughing at us. They know who won, and we won by a lot. The poll watchers were thrown out of buildings or put at very far away distances, but they were thrown out of buildings in numerous of the states. You have people that came in to vote, and they were told, I'm sorry, but you've already voted. We've received your ballot. No, I never voted. I'm very proud to vote. November 3rd, I'm very proud to vote. No, we have your ballot. And they would go in and they would sign a complaint, and in some cases they went home and they cried. They've never seen anything like it. We have thousands and thousands of people that walked in. This shows you how arrogant the Democrats and others were in taking away and stealing an election, because that's what they've tried to do, is steal it. And the easy route for me, when everyone's saying, oh, just focus on 2024, sir, focus on 2024, I said, no, I have to focus on 2 weeks ago, because this is the greatest scam ever perpetrated upon our country. This is the big one. And we went through plenty. We went through the phony Russia, and the phony impeachment, and all of the different things. And then on top of it, you have a governor named Ducey who just rushed, good to have gone faster. He just rushed to sign certificates so that Kelly gets into the Senate as soon as possible. What's that all about? He didn't have to sign. And I say, why would he sign when you have these incredible hearings going on that's showing such corruption and such horrible fraud on the American people and the people of Arizona? So you have to figure out what's that all about with Ducey. He couldn't go fast enough. And I just say that I want to thank you. We're going to win this thing. We're not giving up ever. We will never give up. There's never been anything like this. Thousands and thousands of votes were cast, and you have some people that were paid to vote. You know that. And, you know, we're only down to 9,000 votes. It's a very small number of votes relative to millions cast. We lost Arizona by 9,000 votes. That's a tiny fraction. Now, that would be a half a day, a couple of hours of checking. Well, I will tell you, we are going to fight. We're taking it up all the way. We have additional cases being filed probably tomorrow in Wisconsin and in Georgia. And they're good cases. They're very strong cases by great lawyers and with great facts. And Arizona will not forget what Ducey just did. We're not going to forget the people of Arizona. We had some of the greatest rallies we've ever had. I left those rallies. A lot of you probably were there. And I said, there's no way we lose this state. And we didn't lose the state. We didn't lose the state. We won it by a lot. But I just want to thank everybody. I'm watching it, and a lot of people are watching it on OAN and a couple of others that are ratings machines. Their ratings are going through the roof because they're telling the truth. And others are being hurt, as you probably have heard. Other networks are being very badly hurt because when they don't follow us, they don't do very well. But the world is watching, and this country is watching, and we admire all of the people, and that includes the fantastic representatives, politicians, but these representatives that are up there and doing a great job. And what they don't realize is they may hear some things, but they're becoming legend. They're becoming legend for taking this on. The country really appreciates it. The country really does. And we have more than they do. I represent everybody, but this was a scam, and we have to get down to the bottom of it. I want to thank Rudy and his team for doing such an incredible job and for having the courage to do it. Many lawyers had to leave because they were threatened. So for having the courage, Rudy, we thank you. And, you know, Rudy was, and I say this, Rudy was the greatest mayor in the history of New York by far. You look at what happened to New York. I mean, you look at what's going on right now. He was the greatest we've ever had. And I told Rudy the other day, what you're doing right now concerning the elections of United States President and other elections, but concerning the election of the President of the United States, and as good as being mayor was and so important, but this is far more important, is the most important thing you've ever done. So I want to thank Rudy. I want to thank all of the political representatives, and I want to thank all of the incredible witnesses for showing bravery and love of your country. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. They're clapping for you. They love you. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry for the interruption.
That's what our entire government, 5,000-year leap, if this goes away, God help us, because it will be gone. Because you will have to have at least a few men to stand on a green and fire their rifles at the best military machine ever conceived in the 1700s. Think about that for a moment. They knew if there was going to be a war, let it start here. That was a conscious decision. Why? Because they were sick and tired of tyranny. What we're experiencing right now is a form of tyranny that is insidious. This is our nation. This nation doesn't belong to Belgium, doesn't belong to George Soros. Yeah, that's right, I said the Soros word. Okay? I have the question, I guess, in my mind, will history judge us as acting objectively today? I love the fact that this panel has been so objective that they have, I mean, we're at 7:24. I told them we would be done no later than 7:30, so I guess I better wrap this up. But think about all of the thoughtful, deliberative questions that have been asked by these people. That's strength. That's courage. I hope that out of this, besides calling for a special session, which I am doing right now, I hope even more than a special session, we see a series of grand juries convened. There is so much criminal behavior that has gone on in this state and states around the country. I believe that it's time for our Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney to start perp walking some people. I am glad that you are fired up. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a skirmish. You ain't seen nothing yet. Because when Satan wants to extinguish a light, he will stop at nothing. So be on your guard, put on the full armor of God, and be prepared to fight.